Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome everyone to this class. This is a class on project planning and control, and we are recording this along with the students of the dual degree batch in building technology and construction management who are taking it as a course. So these are the students who will be participating with me in the classroom, and this first lecture will give a basic introduction to the course and the context of the course. So we would first look at the learning objectives. What we have today is, I hope in the by the end of this class we will be able to define what project management is to all of you, understand the science of project management, understand that there are standards with which project management is managed, and be able to get a better understanding of what the standards are, and actually then go into the scope of what the course does and the plan for the class. So this is really the learning objectives for this lecture, and let's get started. So I would like to set the context of the course first, okay, and for this I would like to do it in a little bit of a discussion based mode. And the first question which I want to ask you all is, what is project management? What do you understand by project management? Management of resources. What else? People. Scheduling. Cost. Okay, what are the other topics that come to mind? So you are talking about management of this, so you are using the term management. What does the term management mean?
It should be an optimal allocation of resources and.
Okay, no, so I'm coming back to this term. We have designed management, and in project management, management is one of the functions. So let us take probably the definition of management a little later. What is a project?
Any task which is not undertaking a task.
Undertaking a task. Okay, so I decide to undertake a task of, let's say, making cars. Is it a project?
No, it should be unique.
It should be unique. Okay, so the key word which we are looking for is unique. Okay, so when we talk about project management, is really management of something unique. Is that okay? So when we talk, so I want to now continue and kind of get to the general definitions. So what you'll see here is, I don't want to go and ask you on definition of management, because there are probably over 1,000 definitions of what management is, and I'll just take one of the oldest definitions, which was put forward by a person who was one of the fathers of management from a French origin, and it is to manage is to forecast, plan, organize, to command and coordinate and control. Okay, so this is how he defined management. Now when we come into project, so we want to be able to forecast, plan, organize, command and coordinate and control. We can do that in many contexts. When you come into the context of a project, the key is that it is temporary. Just as you all mentioned, it's temporary, it's unique, and it's a temporary. So if you look at this definition, now the definition of a project is, what do you say, less common, and one of the most accepted definitions of a project is what is put forward by the Project Management Institute, and it's a temporary group activity designed to produce a unique product, service or result. So the key word here is, again, it's unique. Okay, so remember, it's unique product, unique service or unique result. Okay, another way of looking at from a very popular wiki resource is, project management is again discipline of planning, organizing, securing and managing resources to bring about successful completion. So what I've done here is combine the definition of management with the definition of project, I've taken this particular definition because it nicely combines both together. Okay, if you go to PMI's definition of a project, it is a little broader. What it shows is project management is the application of knowledge, skills and techniques to execute projects effectively and efficiently. So the takeaway from this is that when we look at project management, is management of something unique, and whether and when you look at what is management, we are looking at planning, organizing, securing, managing resources, or command, coordinate, control. So all these verbs we can use it with doing something for bringing about a unique activity. So I think we have a good understanding now. Project management is something which is unique. Then what is management of something that's not unique? Process management. Okay, so so we come to this comparison between process and project management. So if you take process, it is something that's not unique, and most of us, are we involved in processes or in projects? Generally industry is involved in process. Okay, they are doing things which are repetitive. Okay, so lot of what industry depends on today is repetitive. Can you give me examples?
Assembly line.
Yes, assembly line. So you have car manufacturing. Okay, anything else? Food, yeah, lot of what Hindustan Liver will make all of your food packets, soup packets, everything is processing. Okay, you have the person who makes a cell phone, Nokia makes cell phones. It's repetitive. We'll come back to whether Nokia says how repetitive is Nokia cell phone, or how repetitive is Apple iPhone. We'll come back to that. Okay, so let's say electronics. There are so many aspects of process, and we can understand it's repetitive. A lot of the service we encounter is repetitive. I go to the bank, okay, the teller or whatever service, many customers come to the bank for the same service day after day after day. It's repetitive. Okay, so for example, bank, it's a repetitive process. Anything else you can think of? Conducting an exam, is it now? So that's an interesting one. Is it repetitive or is it project or repetitive? Conducting JEE exam every year, is it a project or is it repetitive?
There is a protocol.
There's a protocol, but so how unique is it? There are challenges. So no. I like to expand on that example. Quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3. Is that more of a project or is JEE more of a project? JEE is more of a project. Okay, so what I want to highlight here, I was going to do this later, but the opportunity has come up now. We cannot start classifying everything as a pure process or a pure project. You're going to find that there are things that are in between. There are things that are partly like this exam example. Some quizzes which are done on an everyday basis are more of a process. We don't think about it. We delegate it. It's systematized and it's a process. JEE, by most standards, it's a project. Okay, so let's see now. Let's look at examples of a project. What are examples you can think of projects? Construction. Okay, our favorite area. Okay.
Commonwealth Games.
Yes. Events.
Human genome project.
Yes, genome. Why do you call that a project?
All scientific projects.
Yes, all research and scientific things. So it is actually research.
Even development for that matter, R&D.
Yes, research and development is a project. So if you get if we take projects like when you do your MTech project, it's a project because it's a single activity which you are going to take. Okay. Yes, policy making, very very high level, it is a project. Okay, so for example, presenting the railway budget for a year will be almost like a project. Yeah, the card, it's a project. Okay, it's so you have an idea of what are these aspects which are unique. Now just to reinforce what we have discussed, classic repetitive processes are assembly lines. Manufacturing a car, It is repetitive, we go on doing the same thing over and over again. Only if the model changes, there is a change. Okay, this is classic process. Coke, it's so process oriented, it's so highly automated that it just goes on without almost no human intervention. Now and we can go on with examples like this. So one thing which we have to understand, or the reason I introduce this, is we have to think, when I take up a task, should I do it in a project mode or a process mode? Coming back to the quiz example, if I am going to do exam or quiz, I am going to do quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, or even the final exam for your semester, it is a process mode of thought. If I am going to do joint entrance exam conducted, it is a project mode of thought. So we have to understand what the endeavors are. When we take projects, okay, you can recognize this. This is the Bandra Worli highway, the bridge. Something construction, again DMRC. Some non-construction example, research is a project. Software development is a project. Okay, so this is one of the areas of project development or project management that has got a lot of focus today, because there is so much of software that is started coming out, and a lot of tools with project management has been associated with software development. And when we talk about research, for example, development of a space launch, or DRDO decides the new BrahMos, it is a project. So again, to kind of repeat, you have to now think of where we need to use project based thinking, where we need to use process based thinking. Now I want to again come back to this. So I think we have answered the question, what is project management? In looking at process and project, we discussed that things need not be purely process, things need not be purely project. Okay, so this in between line has been I think is getting more and more blurry in recent times. I will take the assembly line itself as an example. It used to be, we saw the Ford assembly line, one of the first assembly lines there. It used to be that Ford would probably put out a new model of a car once in a year, or once in 2-3 years, or even later. If you take the Indian context, the Ambassador was one of the locally made cars. We would probably get a new version of Ambassador every 3-4 years, if at all, and that too there would not be major changes. How is the automobile industry today? It's fast evolving.
Few months
Right. So what is the project part of the car? What is the process part of the car? Process is the repetitive manufacturing. The project
R&D that goes behind developing a new product, new design, new modifications.
Right, new modifications, putting out that new prototype, finding out how it's going to. So the new product that comes out is in a project mode. After it comes to a project, it goes into a process mode. Okay, I'll use another example. I take the cell phone industry or the smartphones. How often does, again, go back into the past, you would probably change your phone. I don't know how often do you guys change your phone? Once in 2 years? 3 years? Okay, I've heard 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Okay, I'm sure the variation is there in the group, but it would be that you would got a phone and you held on to it for many years before you changed it. But today the models itself don't permit you. Every 6 to 8 months, what iPhone comes out every 8 months, 9 months they get. So now again we are coming to a cycle where the process of making an iPhone, yes, is done in China and it is processized, but the product of the new iPhone is a project. So many companies find that now they have to be both in project management mode as well as process management, otherwise they cannot be successful. So that is the core difference today, and that is one of the reasons why project management has really taken off. Okay, the concept, because people need to understand the concept of project management. Okay, now yeah.
How do you classify supercar industry? For example, each car is though the model is same, they are customized to the
right. So what is happening? So if you actually go back to the car industry, what Ford did was bring the assembly line and he standardized. Before Ford, it used to be customized. Now can you make a car in the customized mode today without technology? No. Okay. So what's happening is the customization is basically a result of technological development. So again now as we see project process the line is blurring, okay, but with technology being more enhanced we are able to do projects faster, process, go back into project mode, go back into process. Okay, so one thing that's really pushing the project capability is technology. So I'll give you, so basically I mean from what I understand you're saying, if a customer wants a customized car, the industry is able to deliver it today, because the robot that's making it can be programmed to customized as per customer requirements. Okay, so that's happening to something like for example shoes. Okay, even now if you go to the shoe shop, you go into and I say I buy a shoe at 10 or 10 and a half, and I buy it and I hope it fits me perfectly. Is that is a standardized way for shoes, right? What would be the customized way of shoes? Why? Size is not your shape of your leg. Size is only a standardization of your leg. What would be the customized way of doing it?
You go for you give the sizes of the legs, I mean, from breadth and length completely.
Right. So I could take a laser scan of my leg and send it in to over the net to this factory. They read the scan. They will be able to make a shoe exactly to fit my leg and send it back to me. Possible, because of technology. So now the project, if I had to do it with a shoemaker, it would be a project for him where he would have had to come measure my leg, and they used to actually do that in those days. Today it is technology is enabling and blurring these lines. Okay, so there the project mode is almost processized fully because of technology. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we move to the next question, again in the context. Okay, I assume in some places you would have heard this, but is management, and specifically is project management, an art or a science?
Bit of both.
Bit of both. Okay, so if it is bit of both, is it more of an art or more of a science?
As engineers, we'd argue that it's more of science.
Okay, as engineers you would want it to be more of a science. Okay,
It used to be more of an art in the earlier times when there
Okay.
was no strict methods and procedures to follow. But now that we have more and more procedures and set methods to do project management, it becomes more of a science, I believe.
okay, so it's more of a science. But if I want to say divide art and science between 100%, what is it? Where is it? Where is art? What percentage is art? What percentage is science?
Actually, management requires optimization, and when optimization terms come, then there is mathematics. So it lies in the field of science then.
No, so is all management science? No, so what I am saying is you want to manage a construction project. I mean optimization is a part of the whole thing. I want to successfully bring in a project. Is it art or is agreed? It's art and science. Is it more art or more science?
Varies from individual to individual.
Individual or project to
It's more
project?
art, actually. It's more art than it's more science.
Okay, so it's fair enough to have this debate on more art, more science. At least with all the discussions I've had with industry and people in practicing people, especially on construction projects, they will say it's still more of an art. Okay, the science is still developing, like you all are saying there is science, but it's still developing, and we still have a long way to go. Okay, so let's take a look at this in the context of art versus science. So you can see what we need to do, if you take art, what are the aspects of art? You have political acumen, business acumen, people acumen, personal, interpersonal skills, leadership, all this is art. On the science sides you have technique, methodologies, process, tools. Okay, you have to balance both. And if you go to the art side, it's person dependent. If you are good at the art of project management, it doesn't mean that I can repeat what you are doing. So you need that project manager who is skilled project manager, who has a lot of these capabilities to bring in a project. And I mean, if you go back in to the earlier times, that was what made you a good manager or whatever it was the art. When you go into the science side, you don't want it to be people dependent, you want it to be system dependent, you want repeatable results. So repeatability is one of the pillars of science, and quantification, you want mathematics. Only if I can, another way of looking at science is if I can quantify and I can make it express it in numerical form, then I am being more in a science perspective, not necessarily mathematical, but it is one of the pillars. The other is certainly repeatability. I might have rules which are not mathematical, but if I apply those rules I can always get the same results, that is good enough, that is still science. I am not person dependent, I am not totally heuristic and person based. Okay, so this is where we look. So we understand we need a balance, and if you look at management, it is a relatively new science. So you find there is an area called management science, there are journals called management science, okay, which really looks at management from a scientific perspective. And when you start looking at it from a, so if you actually go back, okay, this is Taylor, whose Principles of Scientific Management was the first book that started, I mean book which we all know of. There have been, before Taylor there were people who were practicing science, but did not make it publicly as I mean it is not as publicized as Taylor's work. So when you look at his principles, you see, okay, he started measurement, based on measurement decisions started being made, okay, and like I said, this was in the early 1900s, so that is when management science, we can say, started. Now when you compare management science, okay, so what we need to know is, now see, so we agree there is science and art to it, but this will become more apparent that it is more of an art when you compare it with some of the other disciplines. So let us say you compare it with engineering. I will take a very, I mean most of you are in have taken a lot of courses either in say structural engineering. So structural engineering, art or science? It is much more of a science. There is art in it, but certainly it is much more of a science, okay, there is no doubt about it, right. But if you go back a few hundred years, was structural engineering art or science? It was art. You needed a master builder to be able to put it in the way, to make it stand, and he knew it, because, and if you did not have him, you did not have the structure. Today it does not matter whether I mean we can train you to be structural engineers and practice most of structural engineering, repeatable, you can make structures that stand. So another thing is something that science can be taught in a classroom like this, and that is the objective. You take medicine, art or science? Okay. Was an art, more of a science. Some might argue it is too much of a science and you really need the art back to be able to do, but again it is a balance of art and science, but we see a lot of science in medicine. Of course you take pure sciences, it is all science, okay, but where did all this start? So with I mean I have taken pure sciences because we can look at some names. Who is this? Newton, right. So what did Newton do to make the science? His laws of motion and everything else started quantifying, okay, force equals mass into action. We did not have any that forms the basis of many of mechanics and science. So he quantified it and made it into a science. Avogadro, okay, so again his number started making things scientific. Faraday, as far as electrical goes, he is the one who made things scientific. Lord Kelvin, okay, so all of these people were there many years ago and started making physics and chemistry more science than art, okay. So we are now in that phase where management is trying to be made a science. We are still more in the art form, but we are trying to make it a science, okay, and that's the phase we are at. Let us take architecture, close to our area. Should it be art or should it be science? it should be art. Okay, so we'll leave that for discussion. We can go on about it. Okay, it should be art, it should be science. If you do it without science, there are limitations. If you certainly do it without art, so certainly we don't want it fully science. It should be more art, or something like art itself should be art. Okay, should not be science. Anyway, so that's an interesting point to debate.